Hello guys, this is Samuel Patel this side and welcome to the growth in the industrial automation session. Today we are going to discuss about the things or about the points which you need to focus if you are already inside the industrial automation field or if you are planning to go to the industrial automation field. So this session is very much useful for the freshers, students and working professionals. Working professionals can be from 1 year to 10 years of experience. This session is very much useful to them also. And if you are a fresher or student, so if you are going to plan to job inside the industrial automation field, so what are the things you need to focus, or what are the areas you need to catch before go to the industrial automation field or after going to the industrial automation field? So that areas or that focus point we are going to discuss in this session. And after that I will show my online coaching plans and packages, so you can get the more information and more idea what you can do with me to learn the more inside the industrial automation. So that's all about the basic introduction of this session. This is the orientation of this session. Now let's start the session. Let me share my screen and we'll point out, means we'll note down and we'll point out each and every points, each and every focus points which you need to focus, right? Let me share my screen and just give me the acknowledgement if my screen is visible or not properly. If my audio and video is not clear, just give me the acknowledgement inside the chat box. Okay, now let's share the screen. So I think the screen is visible, right? Just give me the acknowledgement inside the chat box. If the screen is visible, my audio and video is clear, then we'll start very fast. Okay. Yeah, good. Now let's start the topic. See, first of all, if you are fresher or if you are industrial automation person, okay, who is already working. So have you heard about the points which are right now mentioning over here? First point, let me make it 20, so it will be okay. Yeah. The first point is nothing but batch processing. The second point is nothing but S88 standard. Third point is nothing but the SQL. The fourth point is nothing but the VB script. The fifth point is nothing but the reporting. And the sixth point is nothing but the SCADA plus DCS. We are talking about in details why these points, why these areas are very much important. If you really want highly growth or highly exponentially growth inside the industrial automation, right? If you want to make your salary high, or if you want to grow inside your organization or into the other organization, if you are planning to switch your organization, so these points you need to focus before going to the interview or while doing the projects also, right? Why the batch processing and the SATH standard is required? Is anybody here who is already working with the batch processing and SATH standard? So they can unmute and give me the answer. Then I will explain you what is this and why this is required. Is there anybody here who can answer this question, why this is very much useful inside the industrial automation field? No? You can chat also, then I will answer. So the Arvind says no. Okay, no problem. See, okay, the Yuvraj says no. Okay, so I think the most of the people is not knowing what is the batch processing and what is the SATH standard, right? See, if you are inside the industrial automation field, and if you don't know what is the batch processing and etc standard, so it's really a bad thing, right? Because right now, if you are doing the PLC programming, okay, or HMI designing, so that means you are doing it by using the procedural method. That means the client gives you the control philosophy, and if you put that control philosophy inside the programming to become a logic, right, to make a logic, so that is nothing but a procedural way of the programming. And that programming is nothing but the unstructured way of the programming. Means you are not following the any standard to do the programming, right? So that's why that programming is nothing but the unstructured or procedural programming. But inside the pharma industry, inside the oil and gas industry, or inside the food industry, you need to follow some criteria to do the programming. And that criteria is nothing but the S88 standard criteria and batch processing. Because generally in the food industry, if you get the one application, for example, chocolate making, for example, mixing, pressure, or you can say that depressurization, cooling, heating. So all these processes are step by step, right? For example, let's take one example, chocolate making process. So inside the chocolate making process, you need to add the sugar, you need to add the fat, you need to add the milk, then you need to mix, then you need to heat, then you need to cool. Okay, so these are the processes you need to do step by step to become one batch of chocolate, right? So that is the batch. And to make that batch of chocolate, you need to follow some steps: mixing, cooling, heating, whatever it is, filling, right? So these steps are nothing but the inside the batch processing. And these steps you need to follow, you need to program inside the PLC programming by using this S88 standard method. How this S88 standard method is very much useful to do the PLC programming. Why? Because see, if you do the programming by using the S88 standard, then all kind of methods you are using, like phase creation, equipment module creation, and control module creation. Phase is nothing but the small processes like adding, heating, cooling, mixing. So these are the processes you need to follow inside the phase. So phase is nothing but the term which is very much useful, which is very much mandatory to use when you are programming like S88 standard. If you do it like procedural method, then there is no terms, right? But you are doing it by yourself, like start the pump, start the valves, whatever it is, right? It is an unstructured programming way. But if you do it like S88 standard programming, you need to follow the phase, equipment module, and control module methods. Phase is nothing but the small sequences. Equipment module is nothing but the group of devices like group of valves, group of pumps, and group of analog transmitters. Control module is nothing but the devices itself. So these three parts you need to develop inside the PLC programming. Then your programming will be a structured method. Are you getting what I am trying to say? Is there any question? So give me the question inside the chat box. So to prepare the one batch of chocolate, you need to do the programming of adding logic, mixing logic, cooling logic, and heating logic. That small logic is nothing but the phase. That phase, if you start the adding or cooling, right, that phase will call the equipment module. I told you the equipment module is nothing but the group of devices. That means to add the material, for example, it can be a sugar, it can be a milk, it can be a fat. To add the material, you need to call the equipment module, and equipment module will call the control module, that means devices. So your path will be like this way: phase, equipment module, and control module. And that is nothing but the batch S88 standard programming, right? Why this programming is required? Because right now you are doing the programming, right? And after 1 year or after 2 years, some another person is doing the programming inside the same backup. So if you know the PLC programming, like the batch processing programming, and that person is knowing the batch processing programming, then there is no handover is required, right? And another advantage is if you use the batch processing standard, the interaction between your PLC level to the MES or IIoT level to the ERP level is very much easy. Why? Because we are living inside the industry 4.0 right now. Okay. And all the things are going to digitize. So your PLC is going to communicate with the ERP system or manufacturing execution system or SAP level, because all the batch or all the recipe handling will be done by them. So they will command you the PLC to start the batch. And if you have done the batch processing programming, so the interaction between these two platforms is very much easy. So if you are not knowing this batch processing and SAT standard inside this current scenario of the market, then it's really very bad. So you need to focus on this batch SAT standard to do the PLC programming. Then and then you can grow inside the industrial automation field inside this current market scenario. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? If you have any question, just write on the chat box, or right now I am giving you the question. Am I right or wrong? Just give me the answer, yes or no, inside the chat box. See, the chat box is open right now over your screen. So understood why batch processing and S88 standard programming is required, because it is very much easy to interact between the platform to platform, right? Because right now we are living in industry 4.0 and all the things are going to digitize. Okay, there is no manual interaction, there is no manual operating. Okay, all the things will be done by the recipe management system, which is going to handle by the MES or IIoT or ERP or SAP level. Okay. Yes, Guru Prakash, you have one question, so just tell me, no problem. You can unmute yourself, give me the question and mute yourself.
Yeah, hello. Hello.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, tell me.
My question is in wastewater treatment and sewage water treatment, also the batch processing is still there?
No. The batch processing is nothing but is not a continuous process, right? But in the water treatment plant, there is a continuous process. So there are two methods. One is the continuous process and one is the batch process.
Okay.
Okay.
But
so
in
tell me.
water treatment also, in some places they used to mix with some chemicals and the acids.
Yes. Understood. Let me explain you in a detailed manner. Can you unmute your? Can you mute yourself so I can explain you?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. See, inside the PLC programming, there are two methods. One is the continuous process and one is the batch process. If you go for the pharma and food, you need to develop one product. For example, inside the pharma industry, you need to develop the for example, 500 tablets. So the 500 number of the tablets is nothing but the batch. You need to develop the chocolate of 100 kg. So that is the batch. So inside the batch processing, the final quantity is fixed. You need to develop it by using this batch. So by going through one batch, this type of or this quantity is prepared after batch is completed. So that is the batch processing. Okay, so after completing your full batch, how much quantity is prepared? Because that quantity is fixed before starting the batch, because you are putting the recipe before starting the batch. So the final quantity is fixed. But inside the water treatment plant and other plant, the quantity is not fixed. Quantity is continuous, right? So the final output is continuous output. Am I right or wrong? So that's why that process is continuous process. Yes, you can follow some fundamentals of the batch processing, but this is not a batch processing. Okay, it is the continuous process. So there are two methods. One is the continuous process and one is the batch process. Am I right or wrong? If you got the answer, just give me the acknowledgement. Yes, good. So S88 standard, Yashwanti says S88 standard is only configured to batch process, or can we use it, the standard, for any machine building applications like packaging machine? See, packaging machine is nothing but the continuous process. You can use only fundamentals, some of the fundamentals of the batch processing. Okay, but not all the fundamentals, right? So that's why the packaging, because see, packaging is nothing but the wafer is, for example, the wafer packing machine. Okay, so the wafer is coming, you pack, you seal the packet, and give the output. Another wafer, seal the packet, give the output. Another wafer, seal the packet, give the output. So this is the continuous process, right? But inside the pharma and food, you need to develop one batch. For example, 100 kg batch. For example, 500 kg batch. 500 kg chocolate. For example, 500 kg paracetamol. Okay, so like this way, you need to develop the batch. So that's why these two things are different. Am I right or wrong?
Samulji, this is Pawan. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, the one question regarding the same batch processing. Like, for example, if in oil and gas, right, like the flow is going from one station to another station. So sometimes they are halting the process as well.
Yeah,
Like sometimes they prepared for the batch, like whatever you said that they have some quantity. So for that, like they are going to set some doing some set point something, like
exactly.
they're checking the time by time. So in that
Yeah.
case, so can we call it as continuous process or batch process?
No, it's a, I think you can say that if it is means that filling or whatever is the transfer, right, is
Mhm, mhm,
continuously, means for example,
mhm.
it's a set point based, right? You are
Okay.
saying that it's a set point based. So the
Yes,
material is transferred from one tank to another tank by using that set point.
yes, 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 correct.
Okay. See,
Yeah.
okay. So that process is regarding to the batch process. Yes. Okay.
Mhm,
Why? Because you are giving to some particular set point, and by
mhm.
using that set point, your programming will call the transfer function, and that transfer function is nothing but your equipment module. Okay. And when you call your equipment module, automatically the number of the walls which is inside that line will open, and number of the pump on that line will start, and automatically your product will transfer from one station to another station. Okay, and after
Mhm.
that material transfer is completed, automatically your equipment module will stop. That means your pumps and valves will close, and your
Yeah.
task is done. So this is you can say that it is the combination of continuous and batch process, right?
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Yeah,
Thank you. And the same thing, like we have to follow SAT standard to perform the batch processing.
exactly. Yes. SAT standard you need to follow to perform the batch processing each and everywhere,
Okay.
right?
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Now, see, this thing, if you know, and if you put inside your resume and inside your portfolio, then definitely you will grow inside this industrial automation field, right? Because every process requires the some percentage of the batch processing. Like Pawan says, some field is means Pawan says one application that requires the batch processing, but it's a continuous process. Okay, so the batch processing and SAT standard is very much useful. Okay, now another thing is SQL and VB scripting. I will explain SQL and VB scripting side by side. Okay, so both will understand why this is required. See, right now we are living in the industry 4.0, and all the machines should generate the data, and that data should be logged inside one particular server. Whatever it is, that server can be your SQL server, Oracle server, whatever it is. But right now we are living in the data industry. Okay, so the data is very much useful right now. Okay, so for example, if you are doing the programming of one particular machine or one particular program, okay, so there are number of the analogs and transmitters and RTDs and pumps and valves, right? So they are generating the alarms. Yeah, they are generating the data like temperature transmitter data, pressure transmitter data. Okay, what I can say that they are you are putting some set points like recipe set points, right, to prepare your batch or to start your continuous process. For example, like Pawan says, set point to transfer from one material to the another tank. So the how much set point is transferred from one tank to another, that is the set point. So before going to start your process and before going to start your batch process, whatever it is, the continuous or batch, okay, both are included in this topic, SQL and VB script. Before going to start your process, you are putting some set points, and that set point is sometimes the recipe set points and normal set points, right? So when you start your process, you need to dump that data, set point data, into some particular database. Right now, I am using the SQL database, for example. Okay, so your data is stored somewhere. Why? Because after completing your process, you need to generate the report. Okay, because we are living in industry 4.0 and 21 CFR and part 11 is very much required to do these things. Okay, so that's why you need to store each and every data of your process, whether it's a recipe set point, whether it's the data points. For example, data point means temperature transmitter value. Right now, if your example, if your process is running, okay, and you need to store your analogs, transmitters, temperature transmitters, pressure transmitters, flow transmitters, level transmitters, by each and every 20-second or 30-second or 1 minute. Okay, so the some storage area is required, and that storage area is nothing but the SQL database. Okay, so your SCADA or your HMI will dump each and every data as per the user requirement to that database. So that's why you need to know the SQL Server database. Okay, because the data is very much mandatory, because you need to generate the report for each and every process. Yes, some process is not required to generate the reports because there is a manual entry operator is doing. Right now, still operator is doing the manual entry, but right now the data is electronically generated and that is dumped inside the SQL database or whatever is the database. Okay, but the general purpose database is the SQL database. You need to know this database. Am I right or wrong? Just give me the acknowledgement over the chat box. Am I right or wrong? If you don't know the database or if you don't know the SQL server, right, you're really going to be very much hard to get the new job or growth inside the industrial automation. Because after some kind of years or after some after some years, you need to know the SQL database and how to dump the data inside the SQL database, because you need to generate the report after the continuous process or after the batch process. Yeah. Now, SQL database, that means, for example, to generate the report, you have dumped the data. But how to dump the data? That is the mandatory part. Okay, so that's why the VB scripting using. To dump the data, said the SQL, you need to make the connection between your SCADA to the SQL, right? So the SCADA and SQL connectivity is very much important. After connecting SCADA and SQL database, you need to dump your data points to the SQL database, and for that VB scripting is required, because you need to write down the script. There is no ladder logic, there is no function block diagram, there is no chart programming, okay, over here, because you are dealing with the SQL database. So there is a scripting, and that scripting is mandatory. If you don't know the VB scripting, if you are inside the industrial automation field, then it's really important thing you need to know right now. Okay, so VB scripting is used to dump your data which is inside the SQL SCADA to the SQL. So within 10 minutes, I think the meeting will close. So after explaining the VB scripting, we'll disconnect again and we'll join again. Okay. That's why for the dumping part, VB scripting is very much useful. Okay. Now, let me try to explain you. If you don't know the SQL scripting, see, there is a VB scripting, okay, Visual Basic Scripting, but there is a SQL scripting also, like SQL queries, like select query, insert query, update query, delete query. Okay, so there are the queries you need to perform while dumping the data. So if you don't know how to write down the query, okay, so you need to know right now. Why? Because if you go for the upcoming interview, or if you want to grow inside your organization, right, into or inside the another organization, if you're planning to switch, so if you put this type of things inside your resume or inside the portfolio, if you know these things, so definitely you will grow in this field, right? Because it's really mandatory, because it is useful to generate the reports. Ultimately, the reporting part is very much mandatory. Okay, so that's why this queries should know. Now, how to generate the report, that you need to know. For that, I can Visual Studio SSRS reporting. I will suggest this Visual Studio and SSRS reporting to you. Why? Because to generate the report, you need to generate the template. First of all, you need to prepare the template, report template. Okay, you have dumped the data, and now you need to fetch the data and visualize to generate the report. That is the thing. And to visualize that report, you need to prepare the report template, and that report template you can prepare inside the Visual Studio by using the Microsoft report utility. Microsoft is providing the report utility, and by using that report utility, you can prepare your report. It can be a customized report as per your client requirement and project requirement. And if you prepare the report, and if you know the SQL scripting, like queries, select, update, insert into and delete queries, okay, you can fetch all the data from the SQL server database and visualize over the report template. Are you getting what I'm trying to say? So that means wait, Pawan, I will give you the time to provide your questions, but let me explain you why this is required and why this is very much mandatory. Because ultimate result is the report. Okay, and as I told you that SQL will connect to the SCADA will connect to the SQL, and now SQL will connect to the Visual Studio or reporting utility. Okay, so these two connections is very much important if your continuous process or batch process is running over the PLC. Okay, so the SQL will dump the data to the SCADA will dump the data to the SQL, and Visual Studio will fetch the data from the SQL to visualize the report. So this connection, Visual Studio to SCADA connection, is also very much mandatory. Okay, so how to do the connection and how to get the data, how to fetch the data, how to write down the scripting, SQL scripting inside the Visual Studio, inside the reporting utility, is very much useful. Okay, so this is the flow, or this is the path. If you know, then definitely you will grow inside the industrial automation. Okay, now I think the 6 minutes is remaining, so we'll take the questions and answer for these 4 topics: batch processing, S88 standard, SQL and VB scripting, and Visual Studio. Then we'll go ahead for the DCS part and SCADA part, and then we'll disconnect, connect again. Yeah, tell me, Pawan.
Yeah, Saumil, yeah, thanks for the explaining this one. Just have a quick question on this, right? Now you told the VB script, right?
Yeah.
So like for dumping the database into this one, SQL, so VB script is required, right? Like
Correct.
other than VB script, any other scripting language need to prefer here?
Yes, I can prefer you the Python.
Python. Okay. Because like nowadays, if I see, right, Python is using a lot, like compared to VB script.
Exactly. But yes, I will explain you in a detailed manner. See, the Python is the right now the growing language. Okay, if you know the Python, definitely it's really very much useful. But right now, the Siemens softwares, for example, Siemens WinSys SCADA. Okay, inside the Siemens WinSys SCADA, there is no provision to use the Python. There is only provision to use the VB scripting and C scripting. Okay,
like
so
C#.
yeah. So for example, if you dump the data from the SCADA, and if you don't know the Python language, and if you don't want to use the another utility to dump the data, then definitely you need to know the VB scripting.
Okay, got it.
Okay, why? Because VB scripting is still not absolute permanently. Still it is using inside the SCADA part.
Hello.
Whether it's a factory talk view from the Rockwell, whether it's a WinSys SCADA from the Siemens. Okay, but definitely if you know the Python, then it's really very much useful. But the Python language is generally preferred for the IT persons. But if you know the Python as an industrial automation programmer, right, it's really very much useful, because the upcoming field will be a data science. Data science is coming to this industrial automation field. Machine learning and artificial is coming to the industrial automation field. And all these 3, machine learning, data science, and artificial intelligence, are using the Python extensively. Okay, so the VB scripting and Python I will prefer.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. Yeah, is there any questions for these 5 topics: reporting, VB scripting,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
all this thing?
I think some voice is breaking, Samuj, I think.
Okay, so I think my voice is breaking right now. Is it okay? Now it is okay, or can we disconnect and
It's
connect
like
again, because
my
we need
internet
to?
connection or
Yeah. Okay, so no problem. I think only the 3 minutes is remaining for this session. So what we'll do, we'll disconnect again and connect. Yeah. Okay. So all the members, please connect, and we'll discuss about the SCADA and DCS part and other training packages. Okay. So let me stop sharing and let's connect again. I think all the members, you should connect. Okay. For the same link, and we'll start again.